This is going to be a very detailed Perdition speedrun guide where I will talk about the builds used, how the spawns work, the strats behind the current world record run, and more. Even if you don't plan on speedrunning Perdition, the information in this guide should help you with farming Perdition faster and more consistently. Timestamps for each section are on screen and in the description. Going to be going over the builds used in my Perdition speedruns. So you want to be on Warlock for Voidwalker. You want Cataclysm to one-shot the boss when it's debuffed. Burst Glide for movement. Vortex for applying the debuff and CC. Feed the Void for getting Devour from your grenade. Chaos Accelerant for larger and longer lasting nades when you charge them up. Echo of Reprisal for more super. Echo of Undermining for the debuff on your nades. And Echo of Starvation for a backup way of getting Devour. Since it's Arc Singe, we're running Half Truths for Eager Edge and killing the champions quickly. If you can craft one, you'd want Jagged Edge for highest damage, Swordmaster's Guard for fastest charge and Eager Edge. Third column perk doesn't really matter, just whatever you prefer. You want Trinity Go for quick ad clear, and you can run anything you want in the kinetic slot. If you're struggling with the Overload champions, I'd recommend a Night Watch with Explosive Payload, as it will stun the champions in 2 shots. If you're struggling with the Wyverns, you can run a Blinding Nade to blind them. If you're struggling with Buyers, you can just put on Anti-Buyer Bow. For mods, you want Arc Siphon to make Orbs of Light from your arc weapons and Taking Charge to get Charge of Light. You want Bow mods on to make Trinity Go handle better, and Shield Break Charge to get Charge of Light off the Harpy Shields. You want double Void damage resistance to help with surviving the champions, the Hydra and the Wyverns. And you want Stacks and Stacks to double your Charge of Light stacks. You want Lucent Blade for a 35% damage buff to swords, and you want an extra arc mod to give it the improved sword charge rate, and you want Solo Operative for the 15% damage buff to all sources and Supercharge to increase the amount of Charge of Light stacks you can have up to 4x. Alternative exotics you can use are Controverse Hold with Grenade Kickstart for more grenades, or Transversive Steps for faster movement speed. Stat wise, you want 10 Resilience to make surviving easier, and you want as high mobility as you can get. This build isn't really optimized. Recovery doesn't matter because you have Devour, Discipline doesn't matter because you have Devour, and Intellect doesn't matter because you have Echo of Reprisal. Knowing how the spawns in Perdition work is important for understanding why certain things are done in the run. Enemy spawns are handled by spawn triggers, which are activated when you cross certain areas. There are 5 spawn triggers to keep in mind, 2 downstairs and 3 upstairs. There are more, but you have 0 control over them, and they will be the same in each run. When you first load into the sector, there will be a few Harpies up and the Hydra, with more Harpies spawning in a few seconds. The first trigger is at the top of the first set of stairs under the spawn landing. This spawns the Minotaur and more Harpies. The second trigger for downstairs is marked by the pillars on either side of the main block. This is for the Overload champion, Harpies and Hobgoblins. As you first reach upstairs, there will be Goblins, Fanatics by the power stairs and an Overload champion. The third trigger is just past the first block and it spawns the Minotaur, the Barrier champs and the Goblins around the Fanatics. The fourth trigger is just past the second block and it spawns the Wyverns and Goblins on the upper area. The fifth and final trigger is the landing at the top of the stairs and it spawns the ads in the boss room and the boss itself. So I'm going to be going over my 49-second Perdition run, and I'll be explaining like strats and what I'm thinking of and like different things that can potentially happen during the run. I'm going to be going as in depth as I can, just kind of explaining everything I know. So to start, you want to Eager Eye. This is to hit all the spawn triggers as fast as you can, because there's one here and one here. And the faster you hit the spawn triggers, the less time you spend waiting for the next group of ads to spawn in. Then you want to flick right, get this Harpy, because it's by itself and later on when you're further down the room it's hard to see it. It can move down to here with this one, and this one can also move up there, so you kind of want to be on top of the Harpy kills. After the Eager, you want to bunny hop twice. There's once, there's twice, and then when you land, the second group of Harpies should spawn, so there's one up here and a couple more down there. So then you want to jump up and shoot to the right. If you're missing any, don't worry. They should move down later on once the next, like if I clear this entire group of ads, the next set of, the earlier set of Harpies should move down to cover their place. I'm not 100% sure. It feels like they do that sometimes they don't, but it's just a thing to keep in mind. And same thing with the Hydra. If like the earliest waves of Harpies are all clear, then I'll move down to the next spot. And again, not 100% sure on that, just something to keep in mind and maybe help you if you're missing some Harpies and where they might be. You can also use your radar to see if you're missing any. I'll just have a wee thing. So throw your nade, and then I try to go for cleanup. I'm looking for Devour on my buffs here. If I've not got it, I'm going to pay attention to orbs dropping from these guys so I can pick it up and get Devour back. For the Minotaur, I did a jump light heavy on him, and that's to stagger him, so he's easier to clean up without needing to stun him. And then I'm just going to follow up with a heavy for the kill. And then it's just on to clearing the rest of the ads. So this wall, it'll only drop once every ad is killed, but the Hydra for whatever reason, doesn't count to the ball downstairs or the ball upstairs in front of the boss room, so you can just ignore it. Just as long as you're moving ahead of it so you don't die to it. For the transition, the stairs transition, you want to stay on the right and try and go to as close to the left wall as you can. This just feels like the fastest way to me. I've never really sat down to test it, but it's consistent and it works, so that's what I use. This Hydra, if he's hit by a Trinity Ghoul arrow or like made to stagger, he can sometimes, when he teleports in, just fly to the left. So just be careful when you're doing this transition and make sure you're not flying into the Hydra. So, second room, this is the first spawn trigger and this is the second spawn trigger. You can cross this one, but don't cross the second one. That's for a bit I'll explain later on. So just clear the goblins. So you want to bait the overload into a melee attack so it's easier to get the sword kill on. So yeah, it meleeed me and then my aerial staggered him and then it was just the easy cleanup. So the reason you don't want to cross this is a few reasons. Hiding from the hobgoblins so they actually move forward and don't stay all the way at the back, and also delays the spawn of the wyverns so you're not getting overwhelmed when you jump up there. I'm also looking for seeing if the just regular Minotaur is going to jump down. He did this run, so that's quite lucky, but again I think not crossing here makes that a bit more common. So now I'm going to charge my nade while still holding my sword out so I get the sword charge back, and just throw it into this group to try and get as many of them as I can. As you jump up, you need to pay attention to this barrier, because if he's too close to the ledge, he'll jump down into the group. If he does, you need to be careful of your timing with the sword throwing, or the grenade throwing and the sword heavy attack. If you get the timing too early, you'll just fly into the fanatics and die as they explode, and if you get it too late, you'll miss the barrier because he'll just go into his bubble. So the timing's very tight. Obviously I was lucky this time. Minotaur jumped down. Hobgoblin is close. I know he's not going to jump because he does a wee backstep here. But if he's like any closer beyond this line here, just assume he's going to jump. It might be a bit delayed, but he'll still jump. So light and heavy to kill, and then just clean up the rest of the ads. Oops. So now, I guess I'll go back a bit so you can clearly see. So Trinity Ghoul for the goblins, don't bother wasting your swings on them. Yeah, it's too much time. And then you have the wyvern spawns. They can like spawn anywhere in this circle, and the best spawn is for the wyverns to be close to each other so you spend less time running between them. Because ideally you Trinity Ghoul this group of goblins, sword the wyvern, and then sword the next wyvern, sword the champion, and then just Trinity Ghoul the other goblins at the back. But I saw the pace I was on, so I was getting a bit panicky and just wanted to make sure everything died. A bit unlucky with sword targeting as I just lock onto the next one. But here I shouldn't have heavied, and I should have just gone for 2 more lights, and then used my heavy on the champion. So yeah, just wanting to make sure everything's dead, because I'm kind of panicking. But you want to eager down and throw a nade on the boss spawn. You can just think of it as a box, slightly bigger than this box here in front, so like kind of that. You can spawn anywhere in there. So just place your nade so that it catches as much of that area as possible. And then you want to cast your super just after you land. I casted it here a bit too soon, so the boss isn't going to get debuffed and die to the super instantly. You shouldn't need to turn around and shoot him with Trinity Ghoul. That was a bit of a waste, but fortunately it's still a really good time. The in-game timer for Lost Sectors has been bugged for the last few seasons, in that it starts itself before the player has fully loaded into the Lost Sector. So the Speedrun.com leaderboard for Lost Sectors is swapped to using real time instead of in-game time, so runs can be fairly compared. There will be a link in the description to a guide on how to retime Lost Sector runs by Cobra, a moderator of the leaderboards. Perdition is one of the easier Lost Sectors to run, as it is hard to die due to 100 Resilience and Devour, but there are a lot of small mistakes that can still cost you a good run. If there's anything else you have a question on, please don't be afraid to ask. You can either ask me in the comment here, on my Twitter at Skaryton, or if I'm live on Twitch you can ask me there too. I do plan on streaming some Perdition runs later today too, so if you want to see how I run live, my stream link is in the description. Thanks for watching this video. I do plan on doing more Lost Sector speedrun guides in the future, so if you want to see them when they come up, then please subscribe.